Today on Commander Replay, we check out this GoFundMe submitted Brudiclad Telcore Engineer deck. Is 10 copies of Mere Battlesphere enough to win a game? Find out next on Commander Replay. I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. We have one new Patreon supporter in Twilight Solomon. Twilight, you are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. Also, be sure to use the TCG affiliate player link if you plan to buy new cards because it helps support the channel and it doesn't cost you anything. Welcome back everyone, playing some Brudiclad Telcore Engineer today. Today's deck comes to us from GoFundMe donor Sergio. And so yeah, I've played a few games with this deck already. I've actually made a bunch of changes to the deck. The deck was struggling with a few things I was noticing, and I added a bit more card draw to the deck. I feel like the deck was running out of cards really easily. I also added some more removal, and I'll go through all those changes later on. It was actually filmed after another game, but that game wasn't really showable due to things just going awfully. And anyway, so yeah, I've got a bunch of changes filmed for the deck. I'll talk about those after the game, but we're playing Brudiclad today, hoping to make some tokens and hoping to not get blown out like I have in the past 3 or 4 games that I've tried to film with this deck already. Felwar Stone on top, I think we'll keep that right there. And some of it was my fault. I overestimated like what kind of meta the deck should be playing in. I would say this is a pretty tame Brudiclad deck as far as some of the Brudiclad decks that I've seen. Also, people love to fire removal at Brudiclad, so you have to just manage to keep your commander in play when playing Brudiclad, which can sometimes be a difficult thing. And then in the previous game, I just kept a really bad opening hand and proceeded to not draw lands and got stuck on 2 and did a whole lot of nothing. So a lot of that's been on me. Been tough trying to find a good Brudiclad game to use for video here, so. Lands for opponent, brings it to our turn 2. There's that Felwar Stone. Play a land. Play the Felwar Stone. Anything we can do with 1? Nope. We'll tap out and pass. Personal tutor for opponent. So as I mentioned, we are playing Brudiclad. Brudiclad is 4 blue-red for a 4/4. Says creature tokens you control have haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then, you may choose a token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token. Pretty crazy, some wacky stuff you can do with it. This deck seems to be built around trying to copy something like an Inferno Titan or other big 6-drop creature, and then making a bajillion token copies of that. We got things like Inferno Titan, we've got Hellkite Tyrants, and a few other goodies as well. One thing I did notice with this deck is it's probably a little bit high on 6-drops. It did have a lot of mana ramp, so that is a good thing, and didn't have that many 5-drops or 7-drops, which is sort of where you want to be, but it is still a little bit awkward to just have everything kind of clumped up around 6 mana, especially when your commander is 6 mana. But there's things like cost reduction that can change that pretty dramatically, so it's not the worst thing, but it was the thing that I did notice, and the deck can be a little bit clunky sometimes, depending on your draw. Opponent lays down a Sylvan Library. Yeah, that's a good one. I'd kill for one of those right now. Always feel like things are just going to go a lot better when I have one. Anyway, brings it back to our turn. There's a Myriad Landscape. What are we doing this turn? Probably Foundry Inspector. Yeah, I think just Foundry Inspector. We'll go Foundry Inspector and the tap land. Play the tap land. And I think we're on Brudiclad mana next turn, right? Yeah, we should be. Although, we'd be better off to go for the Battlesphere first. So what's the play look like? The play should look something like Battlesphere, copy Battlesphere, Brudiclad? Burnish Tart for opponent, yep. We'll take a look at what our opponents are playing today. First up, we have Tyrant of Ruin piloting Meloku the Clouded Mirror. Kind of a weird one out of Kamigawa, if you don't remember it. It's 5 for a 2/4 flying. Pay 1, return a land you control to its owner's hand, create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with flying. I've seen Meloku decks here in the past, and similar to many mono blue decks, the plan is really to make doubled mana and just kind of go wild with stuff. I can't remember exactly what the trick is with Meloku, but I've run into it at some point in the past. But once you see the mana doubler or the high tide or the turnabout, then you know you're probably in trouble, is kind of what it boils down to. So we'll want to try to get to them somewhat quickly before they can get absurd amounts of mana going. There's a Taurine Mauler for opponents. So next up we got Firemaker 2/8/2 piloting Ramos Dragon Engine. Not sure what they're doing with this build of Ramos. I'm sure we'll get a feel for it as we get going. Ramos 5 colors, so any number of directions that you could go with Ramos. They've got a Changeling, so perhaps some form of tribal deck, or maybe they just want something that gets really big, because Taurine Mauler's pretty sweet. Opponent cracks Myriad Landscape. Yep. We draw an Ash Barrens. So, I mean, we could play Brudiclad. The question is, do we think Brudiclad will survive? It's risky, but let's try it. We're pretty ahead on our opponents, so I feel pretty good that this might stick around. It's going to trigger the Taurine Mauler. Yep. Only have one token currently, so everything's just the mirror. We'll send a little attack over to Cadus. We should have left one back for the Taurine Mauler. Whoops. Whoops. Oh well. We might take a big hit. That's how this might go. It's okay. Cadus was playing Thromok in the last game and made about a bajillion tokens and played an overrun and easily won the game because no one had any removal. I basically locked myself out of the game with a bad keep on the hand, so they can have a little damage right now. Compulsive Research for opponent, not one that you see a lot of in Commander, and for the reason of lands are stronger in Commander than they are in like most of the other formats. In things like Standard and Modern, at some point, once you reach like 4 or 5 lands, a lot of decks can just do all of the things they need to do. They don't need more and more mana. Where in Commander, you always have more bigger things to do. So Compulsive Research not used as much because it wants to discard the land. But I used to see it all the time when I used to play like Extended and other things that weren't Commander. Just kind of funny that like it's really powerful in other formats that aren't Commander, but in Commander you value lands so much that it tends to not be played. Here comes Joyrot Weatherlight Captain. That's a card that's in this deck. I play this in my Captain Sisay deck. Ooh, yeah, a lot of card draw in that deck. Started laying down all the legendary equipments, started drawing like crazy. Taurine Mauler into the Thromok. Sylvan Library trigger for the Thromok. Yep. Tendershoot Dryad, that's the one that won them the last game. We'll want to be careful with that. Opponent gets a Tendershoot trigger. Yep. We draw a mountain. We have a lot of blue cards in hand, so we'll keep playing the islands right here. We have exactly 7 mana, so I guess we're on Mirror Battlesphere, including the cost reduction. Play the Battlesphere, trigger the Taurine Mauler. It's basically just going to be a turn of Hope for No Blasphemous Act or Board Wipe. So we get a bunch of mirror tokens with haste. Brudiclad will trigger. We get to make another 2/1. We'll turn all of our tokens into 2/1s. We'll spread the damage around a little bit. Leave the Foundry Inspector back. I don't really want to, like, lose tokens, per se. And maybe we should send a little bit over to Cadus. Leave a couple back, just don't want to expose everything. Next turn, if we hit the Cackling Counterpart on the Mirror Battlesphere, I mean, things are going to get ridiculous. Opponent's going to block a token, trade a token, so should keep them from getting, like, way out of hand. There's an Ancestral Vision. One thing I've talked about now that I've tried to film this video 4 times, I noticed that the deck was really missing card draw as I was playing it in the other games, like just running out of cards left and right, so I really focused a lot on trying to get some extra card draw into the deck. I put staples like Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study into the deck and 1 or 2 other things. It doesn't need to specifically be those. Really, it's just more about just having some good card draw option. Doesn't matter what it is. Could even be something as simple as a Concentrate, Jace's Ingenuity, anything really. Just the deck really needed a lot more card draw. When you're playing blue, you should be able to draw up cards pretty easily, so that was something I felt like was really missing and wanted to shore that up. I added a bit more creature interaction. Some of that stuff will depend on meta a little bit, but I felt like this deck was really weak to creatures. Had 4 or 5 counter spells like Cyclonic Rift and Blasphemous Act, and that was about it. So personally, I'd probably still run just a bit more interaction anyway. If you get like a Vandal Blast into the deck, take care of artifacts, and sometimes even just like a Devastation Tide in case things go really wrong. Opponent going to do some attacking. Joyrot Weatherlight Captain and Taurine Mauler into the Meloku opponent. Reality Shift on the Taurine Mauler, and this is good because now the blue player has tapped out their mana, so unless they've got a free counter spell, I think we're looking at this Cackling Counterpart Mirror Battlesphere thing. Only need a dodge removal from one more player. Opponent did lay down a Cabal Paladin at the beginning of their turn, by the way. Missed that. Whenever you cast a Historic spell, is this like Historic Tribal or something? No, that's not Historic. I don't know what they're up to. But something is definitely afoot when you see a Cabal Paladin in Commander. Sylvan Library trigger for the Thromok. Yep. Continuing on our opponents, by the way. Talked about Firemaker. Finally, we have Cadus piloting Thromok the Insatiable. You guys won't see it, but in the last game, we just got absolutely crushed with Thromok. They've played this Thromok deck against the Brudiclad deck every time I've tried to film it, and yeah, it's been decent. It's been decent. I can't remember if any of the other Thromok games have made it to video or not. One may have made it. I can't remember now. Mana Vault coming down for opponent. Oh, that's an Avenger of Zendikar. All right. We need more. Oh, yep, no, we can play Tetsuko. Now that they played Avenger of Zendikar and have landfall, I won't feel bad about doing this Cackling Counterpart thing. Yeah, Tetsuko seems pretty good in this deck. Opponents are tapped out. Here we go. Tendershoot Dryad trigger, Saltwater Cliffs, Cackling Counterpart on the Mirror Battlesphere. Copy the Battlesphere. Battlesphere operational. Let's go. Get ourselves some mirror tokens. Play Tetsuko. And I guess we have nothing else going on this turn, so just play the thing tapped. I guess we could cycle the Ash Barrens. Go to combat. I guess, ooh. One thing to think about is that if all these become bigger, they won't be unblockable. But that's still, yeah, opponent will have to block, though. That's still just like a ton of Battlespheres. So we get another mirror, and then we'll make a copy of the mirror Battlesphere. That's a lot of Battlespheres. Oh, I forget which token was the original. Should have kept that one back. That's okay. We can always make another with Cackling Counterpart. That's the original. Let's keep the original back. We'll send that in somewhere else. Attack like that. Get a bunch of mirror Battlesphere triggers. We're out of mirror, I think, though. Opponent gonna get down to the jump blocking. Opponent goes down to 13, loses a lot of their tokens. Goes to the end step. Goes to opponent's upkeep. Ancestral Vision ticking down. Tender Shoot Dryad makes another token. We got rid of all the plant tokens, so Avenger of Zendikar threat has been neutered. If someone has a board wipe, though, we're probably going to see it. A bouncing board wipe wouldn't be as bad since Mirror Battlesphere is an ETB. We could just kind of do it all over again. Bad tempo-wise, but that's a windfall. I'm okay with a windfall. We get a Skull Clamp. That's huge. And a Saheeli. Oh, that one doesn't make... The other one's the one that makes Thopters. This is good because these are things to do in case the board gets blown up, which, you know, there's a lot of incentive for people to be doing that right now. So, yeah. Brainstorm for opponent. Let's see what opponents have discarded. Scourge of Fleets. Yeah, if they had enough mana, they must have been just a little bit short. Return each creature your opponent's control with toughness X or less. X is the number of islands you control. Yeah, they were a little bit short on islands. So catching a break there. Nothing yet out of the blue player. They could have a Whelming Wave, so we'll want to be careful with that. So we may not attack them straight away. Also, Etherize. Other opponent discarded Equilibrium. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay 1. If you do, return target creature to its owner's hand. Weird. Bet that's part of a combo with that thing. Rakdos Charm? Yeah, that's a bad one. Diligent Excavator. Zendikar Resurgent is a good one to get rid of. Venser is a good one to get rid of. Thromok lost Asceticism. Boots. Messenger Speed gives Trample and Haste. Seems good. And Second Harvest, that's the one that really did a lot of work last game, so I'm glad that one's gone. So far, I'm liking that Windfall. And Windfall may actually be a good card draw card for this deck as well. Thunderous Snapper. Whenever you cast a spell with mana cost 5 or greater, draw a card. Interesting. It's a new one out of Eldraine. More importantly, that's not removal. Oh, these things stay as Mirror Battlesphere tokens? Then you may choose a token you control. If you do each other, that's not until end of turn. I thought that was an end of turn ability. It is not. They just stay as 4/7s. That's insane. Solemn Simulacrum for opponent. Yep. Someone says Whelming Wave is a sorcery. Opponent gonna send a lot our way. Okay. What don't we need? I'd like to minimize some of that damage. We can block a token with Brudiclad. Save a little bit of damage. Do we throw Tetsuko in front of Avenger? Nah. We're at 41. I guess we'll take it. We go down to 27. More importantly, opponent left themselves open for a big attack. Opponent gets another token with Tender Shoot. Yep. We draw a Burnished Heart. Let's play the land. So, I mean, Etherize, there's a lot of things that this could be that are bad for us. So, I don't want to overcommit. I'm not going to play anything before attacking. I'm just going to go to combat, start swinging away. So we get a Mirror token, and we'll copy the Mirror Battlesphere. Opponent's got 4 blockers. I'm going to go with a conservative attack right here, not just, like, empty the tank again for the reason of... I think there's interaction coming. I also want to leave up a couple blockers just in case. Mirror Battlespheres trigger. Oh, the mirror is a mirror itself. Alright, let's see if opponents want to respond at all to this combat. They're going to respond with an Arachnogenesis. Okie dokie. Opponent's going to have a lot of tokens. So I really want to get this Burnished Heart in, but what I actually want to do is copy it with Saheeli. So we can get 2, because if we get that much mana going, we're going to be in really good shape. So I'm going to go with Saheeli first. Actually, there's a lot of spider tokens. Can we actually defend Saheeli? I don't think we can. The other problem is we're also getting to a place where, like, creature board wipes are very much a thing. So, let's go Commander Sphere. Oh, we've got Artifact Reduction in play. Oh, okay. This might change the equation. Forgot about the Artifact Reduction. So what if we go Joyruz? That'll be 3 to get in. That'll make Burnished Heart 1 mana. Be 3 to crack it. Skull Clamp will be free. And then we'll get... Yeah, I think that should work out. Okay. Maybe I'll go the other way just in case of the board wipe. Let's go Commander Sphere. Get Burnished Heart. play Skull Clamp, equip Skull Clamp, and we'll pass like that. This also gives us a decent blocker. Mystical Tutor for Meloku. Cyclonic Rift? It's probably Cyclonic Rift time. Also Devastation Tide. They have only lands in play. What'd they get? Cyclonic Rift. Yup. Ancestral Vision ticking down. That's going to be a Casualties of War. Alright, what are we losing? We're losing a land, and a commander, and a mere Battlesphere. It could be worse. Opponent's losing a Sylvan Library. I guess we're losing a land. Alright, opponents are trying to blow up all of our lands, so we're going to float some mana in response here, and just crack our Burnished Heart. We draw a Frost Titan and a land, tap land. Get a mountain and an island. Problem is, that's a lot of tokens. The Rift is also a problem, too. I'm hoping we catch one of the counter spells off the top. Opponent plays land, but no Zendikar tokens left. Opponent gonna send everything our way. Alright. Yup, even more. Just literal everything. Block the Avenger. Block a 3/3. Yeah, it's a pretty big amount of damage coming in, so I think we're going to use all of our blockers right here. We lose a couple things. Ooh, we go down to 6. Ouch. Brings back to our turn. Tender Shoot Dryad trigger. Supplant form. Return target creature to its owner's hand. You create a token that's a copy of that creature. Wouldn't mind getting some Solemn Simulacrum action going. So if we attack the blue player, they'll Cyclonic Rift, which is what we want in this moment. And if we don't, they'll do it at the end step, and that'll be really bad. So I think, yeah, we're forced into attacking them. Kind of wish I still had the Foundry Inspector, honestly. Alright, force the Cyclonic Rift. Here comes the Rift. Yep. Anything we can do at instant speed? Doesn't look like it. So everything getting bounced. Play the land. We have exactly 7, which would get us the Mere Battlesphere back. I'm caught between Joyra or the Battlesphere. The Familiar. Thinking I might try Joyra right here. Get the Familiar into play. Get Commander Sphere back. Pay 1. Get the Felwar Stone. I think Saheeli we can get for 2? Yeah, we can get Saheeli for 2. Oh, we should have did that earlier. Oh, okay, that token gets sacrificed. Okay, we'll just grab one then. If we went earlier and copied that, then these get cheaper. That's pretty exciting. Mind Stone is not a card that we need. Put that on the bottom. And pass like that. We are at 6. Got to be careful with that Cabal Paladin on the loose. Kind of scary. This is a token exile or a sacrifice? Exile at the beginning of the end step, so that won't work with the Skull Clamp. But Mere Battlesphere gets us tokens, which could feed into the Skull Clamp, which would be good. I thought about trying to get the Avenger of Zendikar killed by the blocks, and I'm now sad that we didn't do that. But we would have taken additional damage. We would have taken 3 more damage. And it's pretty relevant when you're at 6. That's a time spiral. Okie dokie. Fresh 7 incoming, although opponent gets the lands on tap, which is the scariest part. Skull Clamp comes back, which is good. Aetherize is helpful to have in the pocket. Frost Titan also coming back. Get ourselves a Signet. Burnished Heart in for our opponent. Yep. Opponent's going to destroy our Myriad Landscape. Well, after the Cyclonic Rift, the chances of us actually being able to crack that are not amazing. Opponent cracks the Burnished Heart. Yep. Thing that we could do... So I'm thinking about something like Arcane Artisan. Copy it with Saheeli. Use the copy to get a token of Frost Titan. Actually, no, we could just cast... Okay, never mind. Yeah, cast Frost Titan, then copy it with Saheeli. And then that'll be 2 Frost Titans and start locking down some of opponent's lands. We've lost quite a few lands this game. 3, I think. Chulane coming in for opponent. I have no idea what this Ramos deck is doing. I can tell that there's something going on. I just don't know what it is. Avenger back to play. Yep. Probably going to need to leave 4 mana open, whatever we do. Opponent plays land. Yep. Pump up the tokens. Here comes the Tribelder. Yep. That's a Dragon Master Outcast. And we have 7 lands. Okay, that's something to think about. Play the Mountain. So Frost Titan's going to cost us 6. That leaves us exactly at Aetherized mana. So I don't think we'll be able to go Frost Titan this turn. Skull Clamp is free. Might as well cast that. If we copy Joyra, that would make the Signet free. And then that would be the additional mana to go Dragon Master Outcast, Frost Titan, and sit on Aetherize? Yeah, I think that's what we're doing. Copy the Joyras. Get the Signet for free. Get Frost Titan. I guess Frost Titan the Avenger. Get Dragon Master Outcast. Can attack Meloku right here. They've got a lot of mana and have been kind of a thorn in our side. Playing a lot of powerful cards over there. The Joyra copy will get exiled. Opponent cracks a Prismatic Vista. Yep. Here comes a Muldrifter for opponent. Evoked. Yep. Greaves for opponent. Yep. Chulane coming into play. Ramos coming in for opponent, and that'll trigger the Chulane. Chulane going to swing into the Meloku opponent. Opponent's going to crack a Tribelder. Yep. Oh, Aetherize is one of the cards I added to the deck, by the way, because I thought the deck was really shorthanded on removal, so. It's going to pump up the plant tokens. Opponent drops a land, another Avenger trigger. Yep. Here comes an Acidic Slime for opponent. Ooh, Acidic Slime on a land would be really bad. Yep, opponent going for the land. So we lost 4 lands this game. If we hadn't, I'd actually think we win, because we could do more each turn. Especially we could start getting busy with the Skull Clamp. I'm not even going to bother blocking. Down we go. Yep. Here comes Thromok. Yep. So Thromok comes in, devours a bunch of things, becomes a 36-36. Opponent flings the Thromok at Meloku. Meloku down. Nice. So that leaves just the Ramos opponent. Nice play out of the Thromok. I was a little annoyed about getting 4 lands blown up that game. Sultai Charm. Draw 2 cards and discard a card. Opponent discards a Bruna. That's a good one. Humans? Here comes a Rashmi. No, that's an Elf Druid. Ramos is a 9/9. It's pretty big. Throw a Boros Charm on there, and that thing be lethal right now. Here's a Heroic Intervention. Everything's indestructible. That seems puzzling. Sending Ramos. Oh, there we go. Yep, Ramos. Opponent only needs 10 damage, right. Forgot Cadis was at 10. Ramos in the air for 10. And Firemaker wins the match. Ramos in the air. Nice. A little annoyed about... told opponents it was going to be like a 70-75% game. We got 4 lands blown up. I would call that atypical. I know we were in the lead, so those kind of things can happen. And I guess that's sort of the issue with Brudiclad in general, is that it gets out of control quickly. You become king of the mountain, and people want to knock you off the top. So lots of removal in the direction of Brudiclad. In our case, lots of removal in the direction of our lands, which was a big thing. So anyway, just before I cut over to the review that I did after the last game, we'll talk about a couple things real quick. Added Lightning Greaves. Really want protection for Brudiclad. People love to fire removal at him. Dragon Master Outcast is really slow. It's not a card that I'm in love with, and people just have a lot of time to react to it, and a lot of times they will. As a 1/1, it's not that hard to get rid of. Aetherize almost saved us right there. Great card if we hadn't lost another land. Aetherize, Aether Spouts, great protection against creatures. I definitely look at those. I cut a 6-drop from the deck. I cut the Thopter Foundry again, because Thopter Foundry is just really slow. And I don't know if that's the right one or not, but you definitely need to cut a 6-drop. I don't know which one it is, but one of them's got to come out, because there's just too many 6-drops in the deck. If possible, I would try to find another 7-drop that really fits the deck well. Something like a Tyrant's Familiar may not be awful. If you have Brudiclad and can get Tyrants copied, then you can basically wipe your opponent's board, and that seems really good. But I don't know what the creature is, but the curve needed to be spread out just a little bit more. I added some 5-drops to the deck. That was the general idea. Okay, I will cut over to the other review, and I'll take a look at some of the other things I did to the deck. Alright, so I've made some piles of stuff. Right here is the mana ramp pile. Actually, a lot of mana ramp in this deck. The one question in my mind right now is just whether High Tide is really worth it in a deck that's running a pretty high number of basics, a lot of which are mountains. So we had about 3 islands in that last game. Unless the game goes really long, I don't think High Tide's actually worth it. Now, Mana Geyser, on the other hand, will give you tons of mana, so I do like that one a lot. I personally am probably going to cut... Oh, that's not a piece of mana ramp. That goes somewhere else. So 17 pieces of mana ramp. Some of which comes in the form of cost reduction, but cost reduction very good with the artifacts. I'm not personally a fan of High Tide in this particular setup, just because, again, high number of basics. If you draw this half of the basics, High Tide's not going to do much for you. So I personally would probably just go for like a Hedron Archive. There's actually a low number of 5-drops in the deck, so I'll probably say like a Gilded Lotus. Hedron Archive, Gilded Lotus, something like that. There's quite a few 4-drops in the deck. Next, this is the card draw pile. This deck is severely lacking card draw. In both games that I played, I've gotten very low on cards. The deck definitely needs way more card draw. Your usual suspects here are going to be Rhystic Study if you can afford one. If you can't, Mystic Remora is still very cheap. It's gonna get you to look at a couple extra cards. If those aren't your speed, something as simple as a Concentrate is going to be really good. That's immediate card draw. I would probably try to stay toward the lower side of the curve since the upper end of the curve is already kind of big in this deck. Now, the one thing with this deck is that I'm not sure what to cut. I'm not particularly comfortable with Brudiclad, so most of my knowledge comes from just basic deck building. I don't know which combo pieces and which synergy pieces are going to be the best in Brudiclad. I guess Skull Clamp is also a piece of card draw, but Skull Clamp does require another card to be good. You need something like this Foundry, like the Loyal Apprentice right here. I guess Cinder Splits is also a piece of interaction. Okay, so this is a lot of mana ramp. One thing that I would probably do, Darksteel Ingot, yeah, I mean, it's good if someone lays down a board wipe, but honestly, I'd probably rather take my chances with Thran Dynamo. Hedron Archive and Worn Power Stone, the amount of mana that those generate over a long game, especially given the high number of like 6-drops in the deck, is really going to help your mana production. Oh, that one's not ramp, that one goes over here. I mean, Power Shard, I'm sure there's some trick where you copy Power Shard and get a bunch of them and they all make a ton of mana, which is probably cool, but if you're not doing that, Worn Power Stone is just better, and by quite a bit. Now, there's an Unwinding Clock in the deck, which is undoubtedly a powerful card, but I didn't see a lot of interactions for Unwinding Clock, so I don't really know if you need that one, honestly. Added a couple more mana rocks, especially ones that make multiple mana. I mean, yeah, I know Unwinding Clock is good, but I just don't see really anything else that makes you want to run it, so you could think about cutting it. Again, I don't specifically want to cut cards from this deck because I'm not comfortable enough with it to know what's really good and what's not. I will say that there are a lot of these create a token copy of a card type cards in the deck, and I don't know how many of them you actually need. I don't know what the right balance number is for this particular deck, but it seems like there are quite a few of them. Based on the changes we've made so far, there are a lot of 4-drops in this deck. The mana curve really needs better balancing, I think. So I guess, yeah, here we go. If I were going to do this, get rid of Unwinding Clock. Tempt with Reflections seems dangerous, honestly. Get rid of Tempt. Efficient Construction. One thing to think about is that there aren't as many artifacts in this deck as you think there are. Prior to me touching anything, there are 14 artifacts in this deck. That means that this is not a heavy artifact deck. When you start talking about like 25, 30, or even 40 artifacts, that's when you really see something like Efficient Construction start to do its work. I mean, I'd imagine that you probably, in its current setup, I'd imagine that you probably don't make more than like 1 or 2 Thopters with this in a game. So I'd probably actually pull this one out unless the deck goes heavier into artifacts. See, I like Thopter Spy Network better just because the condition is satisfied so much easier to just have Thopters being made every turn. So I really like that one a lot more. Plus that one will draw you cards, which is also good. And as we talked about, this deck does need more card draw. I was noticing a bit of awkwardness here with the 9 6-drops. It's just really clunky because your commander is also 6. Now, if you get like multiple pieces of cost reduction going, I know that can get a lot better, but I still found it to be pretty clunky. Wherever possible, I would try to unload cards from the 6 converted mana cost slot and either go down to 5 or actually up to 7, or you could even support like maybe 1 8-drop in the deck. It doesn't work right here because it's legendary, but like one thing I've been starting to do more is like if there's Inferno Titan and I have more room in the 7-drop slot, you could go for Dracuseth instead of Inferno Titan. Now again, that doesn't work for this deck because you're making token copies and it's legendary, but you get kind of the idea where I'm going with that. So Hellkite Tyrant's always an interesting card. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's not as good as you want it to be. Frost Titan's pretty sweet. So yeah, my advice for right now is more card draw. The deck probably also needs more interaction, honestly. Most of the interaction comes in the form of counter spells. You have 1 Blasphemous Act and 1 Cyclonic Rift. Those are really the only ways to deal with things that are already in play. I guess there's a Cinder Splits Judgment, but, you know, if there's multiple creatures out for each player, then it's probably not that great. So even something like just a Chain Reaction, Volcanic Offering, that sort of stuff. Something to slow your opponents down a bit more, maybe even a Devastation Tide if you want to go that route. I mean, it's not great if you're trying to set yourself up, but if you just need to slow your opponents down. actually some really good cards, especially if you're thinking about combat damage. Aetherize and Ether Spouts are both really good for stopping attackers. So those are better ways that you can protect yourself. Volcanic Offering, I talk about in most red decks, and it's also going to kill problematic lands, which is really good. And it's going to get rid of the two biggest things in play, so really like Volcanic Offering. Got a lot of room in your 5 converted mana cost slot in this deck currently. Again, we're back over 100, so this would need to get cut down to 100 cards again. Again, I don't know exactly what to cut. There is a lot of ramp in the deck, but maybe we could probably make some better choices there. So yeah, a little bit more removal and a little bit more card draw is where this deck needs to be right now, and maybe a little bit more smoothing in the mana curve, and just making sure that you can get to everything when you need to. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.